Hi everyone, my name is Cindy Kneller, and today I'm here to talk to you about the cost benefit analysis report I prepared to you as stakeholders of this decision regarding the Veterans Affairs Electronic Health Record System. For our agenda today, we'll discuss the background and importance of the CBA report, followed by our analysis that includes assumptions, methodology, and the set of outlined costs and benefits, as well as the monetized net present values of each. And then we'll close out with our recommendation for this decision. For starters, let's go ahead and review the background of option 1 and 2. There will be two options evaluated in the CBA report, which include option 1, where the Veterans Affairs or the VA continues its commercial electronic health record or EHR implementation, and option 2, where the VA reverts to the status quo of utilizing its homegrown EHR system called Vista. For some background, it's certainly important to understand the importance of the CBA project, as well as report logistics, VA logistics, and who has standing. This decision is certainly important to analyze because it does impact U.S. veteran healthcare, taxpayers, and other pertinent stakeholders. And overall, the goal of the CBA will be to determine the costs versus benefits of the VA's decision to purchase the commercial EHR system and establish those net present values to equip you as stakeholders with this data as you continue to evaluate the situation. Since this decision is one that has already taken place and the implementation is still ongoing, the CBA for this specific situation will be a medias res CBA or a post-decision CBA. Additionally, the entire length of this VA implementation project is projected to be 11 years. However, this CBA report begins to analyze the project in the middle of the implementation, meaning it will evaluate across 7 years. Additionally, there are some VA logistics, and to better understand this implementation project, it's important to understand the structure of the VA project. So, for starters, one of the main reasons for selecting a move to a commercial EHR system at the VA is to increase veteran interoperability and access, as there are over 100 instances of the current system that do not integrate with each other. So what that means is many veterans are oftentimes needing to carry around about 10 inches of healthcare paperwork at any given time, and paper records lead to an increased risk of medical errors. The VA's Vista system is a very aged system that also supports a code that not many individuals have experience with, so the staffing is growing quite expensive over time. Additionally, there are currently 1,298 healthcare facilities that the Veterans Health Administration, or VHA, is responsible for rendering care from, staffed by over 370,000 professionals, which leads to very high values of costs and benefits. The rollout of the implementations across various facilities is staggered, and each implementation groups a collection of healthcare facilities together. So these are special considerations that were taken into account for the CBA. And then standing. So another essential step in performing a CBA is to decide whose benefits and costs count, or in other words, who has standing. Stakeholders who have standing in the situation are VA and VHA, U.S. veterans, the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Veterans Affairs and of Defense, the Federal Electronic Health Record Modernization Program Office, and then the U.S. Congress and Senate oversight groups outlined in the report. All right, so for our analysis, we'll start with reviewing the assumptions, methodology, and then key impacts and discount rate. So the assumptions for this project include the fact that there will not be any timeline adjustments that deviate from the 11-year timeline. The system and hardware maintenance will need to continue indefinitely for the life cycle of any EHR implementation, but those are not included in the scope of the CBA. This analysis assumes that CMS, or Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, will not change its penalty amount for noncompliance in the next 7 years. And then finally, it also assumes that the scholarly publications and sources that I cited are accurate and reliable. For our methodology, all impacts are monetized, discounted, and categorized into net present values in the appendix that has been sent out as part of the written CBA report for your review. Each value is carefully researched and analyzed by utilizing the mathematical equations outlined in the appendix on values 1A through 1K. So each value did utilize various strategies such as willingness to pay, averages based on published scholarly research, historical values cited in past VA EHR implementation projects, and then other values cited by government agencies as well. And then finally, our key impacts do include costs and benefits, which include staffing, IT infrastructure and hardware updates, system and hardware maintenance, training, optimization and efficiency, veteran health outcomes, patient safety, investment in VISTA, federal contracting, compliance to regulatory measures, control of the system, and clinician time, which will be outlined in the next couple tables that we have in this presentation. Additionally, a discount rate of 7% was selected since the VA is a government agency and typically relies on the federal government to determine the discount rate. So as a default, we utilize the Federal Office of Management and Budget that states a real discount rate of 7% should be utilized. So to arrive at the net present values, or NPV, per year, I monetized each cost and benefit for each year and then calculated the present value, or PV, of each year. The PVs of costs were subtracted from the PVs of benefits for each option, which resulted in the NPVs presented at the bottom of this table, as well as the table on the next slide. So here for option 1, you can see that in each year, the net present value increases from about 3 trillion all the way up to 6 trillion by year 11, displaying a very high net value, indicating a positive decision. And the costs and benefits are also further parsed out within this table here on the left-hand side. On the other hand, option 2 results in negative values around about 6 trillion, negative 6 trillion each year once each cost and benefit is analyzed, which indicates a poor decision. I understand this is a lot of data on each table, but it is important to take time after this presentation once I send out the PowerPoint to review the complex data for further understanding. But overall, the most important item to understand are those net present values at the bottom, and that option 1 indicates a positive decision, while option 2 indicates a negative decision. I'll also quickly review some biases and uncertainties that came up during the CBA report, followed by our sensitivity analysis here. So the potential biases that could impact my CBA project include effect heuristic bias, confirmation bias, optimism bias, and then the scientific research that was cited. Those 4 biases can skew data based on subjective data available to us as individuals. So in this case, of course, most individuals obviously would like to see veteran healthcare improve. However, sometimes it is important to take a step back and evaluate negative project impacts and costs that are more so objective. This is the same with the published scientific research that I cited. It could have a bias to display statistically significant results. Additionally, uncertainties are factors that influence decisions, and since there was not specific contingencies to assign a probability to these items, they will be labeled as uncertainties rather than as risks. The VA's complex contracts, which can lead to funding timeline considerations if there are gaps between task orders, and additionally, there may be an increase in staff turnover during the EHR implementation. However, it's challenging to determine the exact amount for both of these. Other values that are uncertainties include contractual risks of evolving requirements with such a long implementation timeline, and then technical uncertainties due to this being the first commercial EHR utilized at this scale. So to account for these possible biases and uncertainties, there are a couple of strategies that have been utilized to minimize the risks of those errors. So first, it's important to note that I pulled in several resources to fact check the values I place across the benefits as outlined in the appendix. So by utilizing objective, credible, and informed research conducted by reliable agencies, there is a decreased chance of errors and eliminates that personal bias. And then additionally, the historical VA EHR implementation contracts are published on the web for public consumption. So I utilize several of those values in my research to ensure accuracy as well. Secondly, you can see here on this slide, I have performed a sensitivity analysis by comparing a discount rate of plus and minus 2% to my defined 7% CBA discount rate. So this allows for a broader range of the NPV rather than trying to target a single value. So that is displayed here on this screen as well. So based on this research, my recommendation is to continue the commercial EHR implementation across the VA facilities, otherwise known as option 1. With the drastic change in the NPV range between options 1 and 2 presented, it is evident that option 1 is the recommended course of action, and the data presented throughout this report based on willingness to pay values, the published scholarly research, historical values, and other values cited by government agencies has informed this, the NPVs presented in both options. So option 1, all values are well above 0, and the fact that they're positive informs us that the project should be continued. But on the other hand, option 2 is well into the negative, so this would be a poor decision to proceed with. Even with the potential biases and uncertainties present, present, it is still highly unlikely that it would be a large enough change to alter the recommendation presented in this report as displayed by the sensitivity analysis. So with that said, option 1 is the recommended course of action to proceed with, and the VA should continue its implementation of the commercial EHR system. With that said, please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you for joining and have a great rest of your day.